What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Winkler Knives General. Now, this is the first knife that was ever requested for review by one of my viewers, and I am incredibly grateful that that happened, because you start a YouTube channel and you send a video out into the ether, right? Into nothingness. It's like sending a message into outer space, right? And when you get a request, it's like you get a message back, you get a ping back, right? That says, hey, we're here, we're listening. And that somebody wants my thoughts on this knife is, I appreciate it very, very much. So let's get into this knife. This is, it's the Winkler General knife, and it's called the General because it's an exclusive of the Mast General store in North Carolina. So I believe that that's where, that they're in the same area that Winkler knives are made. So they have an exclusive of this knife. So if you, oh, by the way, it's not, this video is not sponsored. The Mast General store doesn't know I exist in the world. Okay, so, but so this is an exclusive of the Mast General store, and that's why it's called the General. And I think as of the making of this video, I checked a little while ago, they still had some, but because it is an exclusive, you're gonna have to check with them and see about availability. But let me give you a tour of the knife, and then we can get started on the review of this just outstanding blade. What you have here is a sharpened blade length of just over 3 inches, total blade length of about 3.5. So this would fall squarely into the small fixed blade category for me. It's a little strange because fixed blades kind of play in their own category as far as sizes, right? Because 3.5 inches is considered a full size folder, right? You know, the XM18 has a 3.5 inch blade, but you know, when you get into fixed blades, this is really considered a small knife, you know, in the spectrum of fixed blades. So this, I would say that it's an excellent camp knife. So let me give you kind of a tour of the knife. What you have is this 3.5 inch blade, and it's made out of 80 CRV2, and I'll speak to that here in a minute, because it's important to talk about that. In the spine of the knife, they have this very unique jimping that they do. It's like 2 lines, and then 2 circular divots, and then 2 lines, and the same thing happens over here. So when you put your finger right here, it's very effective jimping, you know, and you know, for very fine tasks, for whittling, this is excellent for carving or working wood and doing finer tasks. This is just an excellent knife. You have a very effective sharpening choil here. You have this curvature. It's not quite a guard, but it does prevent your hand from slipping into the blade. You have a maple handle that has been engraved with kind of a topographical kind of pattern here. You have the darkened pins. You have a lanyard hole, and then you have a pommel back in the back. This is a full tang. The thickness of the blade is not huge for a fixed blade. I think Winkler knife uses this thickness for a lot of his knives. I think there's now a survival knife that he's using a thicker stock, but for the most part, I think most of his knives come in this thickness right here. So that's kind of what you have. Now, I came across this knife. I didn't know that this model existed. I was looking for a different knife, and because the internet is what it is, you know, I started looking to see who had the knife that I was looking for in stock. And you know, I was looking, and I went through my usual distributors, and then I came across the Mast General store, and they had the other knife that I was looking for in stock. But you know how they always say people who viewed this also viewed this other one? I saw the picture of this one, and the lines of it just immediately caught my eye. And I ended up leaving that day with this knife instead of the knife that I was actually looking for. So as part of the tour of the knife, so that's how I came across this knife anyways. As part of this knife, one of the best aspects of it is the sheath, okay? The sheath for this knife and for Winkler knives in general, I've said it before, I think are the best sheaths in the world. Let me show you here why. So what you have here is a sheath that has 3 layers, okay? On the outside you have leather, so you have this very nice, the texture on this is amazing. So you have, and the look, it just looks really classic, really traditional. But then you have kydex in the middle. You have let's say a core of kydex, and then you have kind of felt on the inside. So what you have is all of the retention and security of kydex with the look of leather, but you don't, because of the felt liner inside here, you don't get any of that clicky, plasticky feel of when you insert your knife. You get all of the retention still. You know, obviously it's not going anywhere, but you get, you know, this nice luxurious feel when you put your knife into the sheath. And then you have this, so obviously you can replace these screws. You can put a tech lock on it. You can rotate it if you want to carry it scout. You can do, if you want to do scout scary. So they're the sheaths for Winkler knives are just, I consider them to be the best in the world. They are just, it's worth to give these knives a try just because of the sheath. They are just amazing. I would highly recommend them. And if I could find out who makes these sheaths for Winkler, or if I could get Winkler to make sheaths for my other knives, I would have him do all my sheaths. So let's get into the knife. The size comparison, I always ask my viewers, if you think of a fixed blade that is a benchmark in the industry, for size comparisons, let me know, because it feels weird to always be comparing it against folders. But until I get a good answer, I'm just gonna keep doing this. This is against the Para 2 and against the Para 3. So in size, it's probably closer to the Para 3. It's very close to that size when deployed. You get more blade, but you get more handle out of the Para 3. So like I said, it's a small fixed blade, but it's probably, you know, a full-size knife. Because see, that's the full-size bug out. So I think that's probably a very good comparison right there. And that's the mini bug out. So obviously when deployed, you know, in size-wise, you're looking at something like a full-size bug out in, you know, so light use camp outdoor type knife. Ergonomics are actually really good on this one. So it's a smaller knife, but I wear large gloves, and this just fits my hand so well, and it's a neutral handle. It's not, you know, it doesn't have all of the finger contouring that some knives have. It's a fairly neutral handle, but man, is it comfortable. You know, you grab it in a variety of different grips, saber grip, hammer grip, and all of them feel really good. In fact, you know, I have other Winkler knives, and a lot of my other Winkler knives, they have a kind of a different shaped handle where it kind of teardrops and it becomes wider in the back, and they are not as thick in this direction. So the ergonomics on this one are actually better on this knife than some of my other Winkler knives. Not that those ergonomics are bad, but just this are so much better, especially for this knife. So the ergonomics on this thing are really good, and because of the neutral handle, I usually say that neutral handles tend to not excel, but this one's made a little bit different. I would say that the ergonomics on this one are excellent, even though it's a neutral handle. Now, cutting with this knife is amazing. And here's where I'm going to talk about the blade. So if you want to skip ahead, because I'm going to talk about, I always talk about the heat treatment that Winkler does on his knife. So if you've heard me talk about this before, you can skip ahead. But what Winkler does is he grinds the blade, and then he treats it once the blade is ground. And that's different from what most knife makers do. The heat treatment process, if you do it on a blade that's already been ground, there's more of a danger that the blade warps on you. So a lot of makers don't want to do that. They want to heat treat first and then grind later, and that way they can avoid the warping problem. The problem with doing that is that you lose some of the properties that you gain in heat treatment. You lose them in the grinding process. So you don't have that problem with Winkler knives, and he's using ADC RV2, which is kind of a middle of the road steel in my opinion. But in his hands and with his heat treatment, there's just something. One of my viewers called it magical, and I think that's the right word. There's just something really special about it. I don't know if you can tell, but I put a mirror edge on this, and I've sharpened S110V. I've sharpened Crew Wear, I've sharpened 4V, S90V, and this was a lot harder to sharpen than those. The steel, the edge retention on this is just very good. I've always said that if he can do that with a steel like ADC RV2, I wonder what he can do with a 3V steel or one of those. I think, I'd be very curious to see him try. But the blade that you have on this, the heat treatment process that you have on it, is just so good that that the blade performs really well. Obviously, because of its size, it's made for smaller camp tasks, right? Food prep, whittling, small carving, a little bit of detailing. Those feather sticking, those kinds of things. And for all of those, it's excellent. And at this size, it's just a knife that just goes into my hip whenever I'm outdoors. I spend a good portion of the summer. We have property that is out in the woods, and it's probably this one and the Chris Rugniala are probably my two most carried fixed blades that I own, because of how they perform and because of how this blade works. The steel just cuts very well. It takes a tremendous edge. It is hard to sharpen. I've got to warn you, it is hard to sharpen. Now, fit and finish on Winkler knives are just amazing. The scale just goes, just blends seamlessly into the steel, and it's and it gets darker, and the transition between the wood and the steel almost kind of disappears. It's just they could do just regular jimping that you have in many knives, but the fact that they do it in this way, you have this Mast General Store, the engraving of the topo, the wood that they pick. And one of my viewers in another video said that they match the color of the wood to the sheath. They try to say that, if you have lighter wood, they try to get a piece of leather that was lighter. I can confirm that that's the case for my knives. I haven't spoken to Dan Winkler or Winkler Knives about it, so I can't say categorically that that's the case. I can tell you that for the knives that I do own, that has been the case. I can confirm that that's the case for my knives. Now, airing of grievances or dislikes, I would say that I only have one, and that is, I don't know if you can tell this discoloration that I get right here. I get the same on this other side, and that happens because in my sheath, I don't know if you can tell right there. It's like this corner gets caught in that whenever you try to, you see it catching right there. So it's kind of putting a dent on my sheath. I think that's my only grievance with this. That I wish that maybe this was knocked down a little bit, just so that it would go into the sheath a little bit better. And I feel like it's destroying a corner of my sheath. But other than that, you know, I'm gonna link up here at the end of the video my top fixed blades video, and a little bit of a spoiler, this is one of the knives that makes it to the end of my top fixed blades, just because it's such a versatile blade. It's such an excellent size. You know, it's one that I don't think about when I put it on my hip. You know, whenever I carry a larger fixed blade, it's because I have a specific task in mind. You know, I'm gonna be doing, you know, batoning. I'm gonna be just doing some chopping wood, or I have a harder task. But if I don't have any specific in mind, then this is what goes into my hip, and you know, to just for whatever I might need in the day. The size is excellent, the sheath is excellent, the steel is very good, the fit and finish, and in my opinion, it's a beautiful blade. The lines on it are just really, really, really nice. Well, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the tour and review of the Winkler knives General. It's $325, and it took me a long time to kind of swallow the price with this steel. Okay, I felt that at that price point I should be getting a more premium steel, but what you get is a more premium heat treatment, a better production of the knife, a better making of the knife, and I would say that you need to try them out. I know that we would all prefer it if it had a 3V blade on it, but I need to tell you that this one performs really, really, really good. I have many other knives in more premium steel, and this one is right up there in performance, even though it's kind of a steel that we generally would consider a premium steel. Give it a shot. They are outstanding knives. Well, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you think I earned it, then like and subscribe. Don't hit notifications. I don't want to be bugging you. If you want to see my videos, you know where to find me. And until I see you at the next one.